Hi, this is Raffi. We're with the Radnor Studio 21 in Wayne, and I'm with Sam Chu, and I'm gonna be interviewing him. Why did you want to be an actor?
You know, I really didn't originally want to be an actor. I wanted to be either a doctor or a teacher or a priest. And I sort of, fiddled around with those ideas, but I took chemistry and physics in school and realized I was not going to get into medical school. And I was lucky. I was born with a good singing voice, and I sang a lot when I was in school. I went to Episcopal Academy as a little boy, and I sang in the choir, and I did a couple of plays, and I always thought it was kind of fun. So when I was at Temple University, I changed my major from pre-med to communications, television, radio communications. And we did radio shows, and I became a disc jockey way back in the early 60s. I was one of the early disc jockeys at WRTI FM. I had a music show that I did, and that's sort of, and one of the classes that I had to take in school was in radio drama. We put on radio plays, and it was on the radio, not TV, but we did sound effects and everything, and I was always the announcer. I was the one that said, "And now the Black Shadow presents," that kind of thing. And I just got hooked on it, and I went out to Hollywood in 1965 for the summer and never came back until 2008. I got lucky out there.
Why is it your favorite role or movie?
What was my favorite role or movie?
That you have done?
Well, I did a lot of movies. I starred in a movie called Rattlers, which runs every Halloween. It's kind of a horror picture about rattlesnakes. It was a low-budget film, but it made a lot of money, and that was not my favorite one, though. My favorite one probably was a movie called Cereal. Not the kind of cereal you eat for breakfast, but Serial, which was based on a serialized version of life in Marin County in San Francisco back in the 60s. And the movie was sort of a Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice. It was a comedy, about relationships and all that stuff that went on in the 60s and 70s. And I had a big part in that with Martin Mull, Christopher Lee, Tuesday Weld, and Sally Kellerman played my wife, who was a very good actress, and she was Hot Lips in Catch 22, right? Yeah, I think so. So that was my favorite, Cereal.
What do you do now?
What do I do
now? Yeah.
Well, now I moved back in 2006, and I wanted something to do, and there is acting around here. There's the Hedgerow, the wonderful theaters, but I pretty much was retired. I moved back from Santa Barbara, California, and I just wanted to come back to Radnor, where I grew up. I'm comfortable here. I love it. I was brought up where the Radnor High School is and where Penn Medicine is now. Was my grandfather's farm. We had 300 acres of land back in the 40s and 50s, and it was beautiful. And I love Wayne, and I love Radnor, and love this station. And I taught at the Shipley School from 2010 until 2019 or 20. I taught public speaking, debate, and some theater. And they hired me, and I love doing it. I love working with the kids, and I still go over there and help out a lot. So, but basically, other than that, I'm kind of retired and just, hanging around Wayne.
When you were at the farm, did you have any animals?
Oh, yeah.
And how many animals and what kind of animals?
Well, my sister and I just used to love it. We had cousins and everything, and there were 8 or 9 of us that lived all around Radnor that were part of the farm, and we had Guernsey cows. There were milk cows. We didn't have Black Angus, which everybody has nowadays, but we had a big flock of sheep. We had pigs, chickens, guinea fowl, ducks, you name it, goats, horses. We had horses. And everything was, in those days, in the 40s and 50s, even though they had tractors and things, my grandfather, who had died, he didn't want anything automated. We weren't Amish, but it was like the Amish people. He didn't want any electric tractors or gas tractors or anything like that. So everything was done by horse-drawn, we mowed the field with horses pulling these mowers and everything. And it was a wonderful way to grow up.
Do you have any for younger people?
Any advice for younger people?
People like you?
Advice for them?
Yes.
As far as acting?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I used to tell my students acting is fun, but it's a very difficult way to make a living. So I would say if you're going to try and be an actor, make sure you have a daytime job. Get a job being a bartender or work in a store or do whatever, because, for everybody that makes a decent living, I was lucky. I wasn't a star, but I worked a lot. I was a working actor. I was on a series called The Bionic Woman for a couple of years. I was on General Hospital. I did a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies. But there were a lot of times, in between jobs where I was unemployed. And not many people make enough money trying to do it to make a decent living out of it. A lot of it is luck and timing and being at the right place at the right time and having a certain look. I looked sort of like an East Coast kid that could play, a young doctor or a lawyer or a banker or whatever. But it's a tough, because you're selling yourself. It's not like you're a salesman at the King of Prussia Mall and somebody comes in and you show them a pair of sneakers and they say, well, I don't really like those. You're going to lose a little commission. But when you're an actor, you're selling yourself. And when they tell you that you don't have the job, it can be sort of debilitating. So you have to not take it personally. You just realize that, well, you just weren't what they were looking for,
And when you wanted to be acting, what was like your favorite part of acting that you remember, and what was your hard part that was hard for you when you were learning how to be an actor?
Well, that's an interesting question. I did a number of plays. I did a musical called Mame that was a very well-known musical. In fact, we actually played at the Valley Forge Music Fair, which used to be out in Valley Forge. It was a big tented thing, and they had big productions there. So I did do some plays, but I didn't do a lot of Shakespeare, and I didn't go to Broadway or anything like that. I was not good at learning lines, and to do a Shakespeare production as Othello or Richard III or whatever, you got to be able to learn lines. And I liked the acting where I didn't have parts that were too demanding. I mean, you do a TV show and you film a scene where you're trying to investigate a murder, and then you cut to a car chase, and then you come back and do it again. But, just basically the actual process of acting. There's a lot of sitting around when you're acting. I mean, you got to go to your dressing room and you have to wait between shots. They've got to set up the cameras, set up all the lights, set up all the props, and then you have to do it 3 or 4 times. So it can get sort of exhausting and it's not very exciting. But being on stage is, being in front of a live audience, that's really where it's fun.
Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed it a lot.
Me too.
Thank you, everybody.